So welcome, Susan Michel and Myrna Steller for Surrender to Joy, your program that I love so much. This mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel here in Western Massachusetts with my good friend Myrna from Florida. I always love talking with my good friend Myrna Scholar because she is such a wise, clear channel. And I always feel so much more connected to Christ consciousness when I speak with her. My book is entitled Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. It's based on the principles of A Course in Miracles, which I have been studying for approximately 33 years. Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
Yes.
And Myrna's book I have right here as well. Myrna's book is entitled Private Lessons with Jesus, which is so amazing. And hers is from A Course in Miracles as well. Hers is a little different than mine. She goes through the daily workbook lessons day by day and channels what she hears from Jesus directly, which is so incredibly amazing. I love it. So how are you doing today, Myrna?
Doing great. And thank you for saying such sweet things. I feel the same thing for you. I think we are very connected because we've started the Course in Miracles. It's something that we loved right from the beginning. It was something we were both drawn to and therefore drawn to each other. So yes, we've been through the ranks, you and I, learning and studying the Course in Miracles. Yeah.
A Course in Miracles is just such a strong connection. It creates such a strong connection through like minds.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we started studying 33 years ago. I think we've been studying it for about the same amount of time in a group in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And Lisa Natoli was also a part of that group. She's a big Course in Miracles teacher right now. Jeff Murnov, the facilitator of the group, is still going strong, living a happy life in Hawaii. So I think we're all just growing in leaps and bounds. So as our good friend Sherry says, who's also a big Course in Miracles student / teacher, it's all good. And it really is. So if it's okay, I would like to start on page 28 of the text, which is my way of giving the talk today to Jesus Christ, to Christ consciousness. Is Jesus Christ channeled A Course in Miracles through the scribe, Helen Schuckman. I believe we all have access to that wisdom. You know, not only Helen Schuckman, who scribed it in her way, which she was a psychology professor of medical psychology at Columbia University in New York City. So she scribed with a lot of psychology, which I think is fabulous. Of course, she's the perfect scribe for the course, but I believe we all have access to that wisdom, and we all channel it in our own way, just as you channeled Private Lessons with Jesus. Do you agree with that, Myrna?
Yes. I thought about that just the other day. You're right. We all have access to it. And the reason that I believe I was able to do this was because I let go. It's about letting go. And when I was in the privacy of my own room with my computer, and allowing Jesus to enter without any intrusions. There were no outside intrusion. Excuse me, I could be relaxed. And then I would be able to now hear words thoughts, ideas, and just move along. My fingers would move along on the computer, on the keyboard, and I was transcribing what I was hearing, feeling, whatever was coming to me. And then when I would read it back, seeing that it was all truth, and that's when I decided it would be published. I thought it was just meant for me originally. This would be my way of doing A Course in Miracles, another year with Jesus. But when I realized what was coming through, I wanted to share it. So, but we can all do that. It's all about letting go. That's the best I could say about that.
I think that's brilliant that you just said that the way you did. My book is entitled Surrender to Joy, because I think surrendering to a power greater than ourself is the only way we can find peace, love, joy, and happiness. I think discipline is involved in terms of getting access to our higher self. There's a certain amount of discipline involved, but ultimately, in order to connect to our creator, to connect to source energy, we need to let go. We need to surrender. So there's a balance, on one hand, we need discipline, which I believe A Course in Miracles explains. There's a discipline required to get mind, body, and emotions under control. I believe that, a daily discipline, because we need to discipline our mind to focus on happy thoughts, positive thoughts, empowering thoughts. That's even a better word. We need to discipline our mind to focus on empowering thoughts. But then we have to be careful of trying to control the outcome. We need to let go and surrender to a power greater than ourselves. So on one hand, and this has been very challenging for me throughout this entire lifetime. On one hand, discipline is necessary. I mean, I used to have discipline, the definition, taped to the front of my refrigerator door. And I remember what I had there: discipline, training that develops self-control, character, and efficiency. There's also paragraphs written about discipline. The one I found in my astrology book, Linda Goodman's Love Sign, says, strange that the word disciple contains the word discipline. No, strange that the word discipline contains the word disciple, or perhaps not strange at all. Jesus had the disciples. We're disciples of Jesus as Course in Miracles students. So the word discipline contains the word disciple. So there is discipline involved, and in a way, discipline involves self-control, right? Isn't that part of discipline? However, to really access this higher wisdom, not only do you need to use discipline and self-control, but then you need to let go and surrender to God as well, because one without the other just doesn't cut the mustard. One without the other just doesn't work. And it's been very challenging for me, because I've gone through phases where I've been like a control freak and I've tried to control everything. And then I've gone through other phases where I've been out of control and reckless, and that doesn't work either. So it's finding a fine balance between discipline and surrender.
Yes, Susan. Just yesterday, I heard a very interesting analogy about that in order to know one thing, you have to experience the opposite. So yes, we do go through pain in this world, but how would we know what peace is and love unless we experience pain? How would we know the light from darkness unless we experience darkness first? So everything has an opposite. So it's really necessary. We come into this lifetime expecting that to be the case, because that's what it's all about. It's learning the truth. And we come because we experience the emotions that bring us to the truth. And certainly we don't want to suffer pain. We move away from pain, and then we look for ways now of gaining the antidote to pain, which is love, peace. And so it's almost a necessary endeavor in a lifetime that we choose, really, because we need to continue our learning. And God gives us that. And then if we're fortunate enough to remember God, then we can then move up and start to become, I use the words God realized.
Mm.
And you say God socket, plugged into the God socket. So I like that too, because those words, those thoughts are very genuine, and they move us into a place that where we do feel safe, where we do feel that we're loved, if we have the faith and the trust, knowing that it's there. And certainly we know what love is when we experience God love. It's a miraculous upliftment into truth, right?
Right. Right. Yes. Well said. Thank you. Okay. Now to get back to my introductory paragraph after I went off on a tangent, I will read the paragraph that was originally recommended to me by Dove, David Fishman, who is just so fabulous. And here it is on page 28 of A Course in Miracles text. Helen writes, Jesus Christ writes, through Helen Schuckman, I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. So we do not have to worry about what to say or what to do if we surrender each and every moment to God, because he's always there. He always has our back. Whenever we're fully present in the moment, whenever we're able to trust him completely, he will basically use us to channel his love and extend his love to our brother, to whomever we're around at the time. And it's really beautiful, because when a miracle occurs, it's a very empowering feeling. You know, it's not only giving to our brother, it's giving to ourselves. We don't know how much love is available to us until we express that love. We don't know how much love we have inside of us until we express that love. And I have experienced a few miracles in the past, in the recent past, and when I do, it's really beautiful. The last time I spoke to you on Pal Talk, Myrna, I was having a challenging situation with a nurse at the nursing home where I work. And I knew she was my teacher. I sent her love. I was very triggered by her, hurt by her, and I was doing my best to work through it. And I saw her yesterday, and she was sweet as pie. Since that time, I mean, we have been getting along just so well. And I think my sending her love, I think she picked it up, because we're calling each other by name, we're smiling at each other. And I no longer have any resentment or anxiety relating to her at all. So it's really amazing that when you focus your mind on love and forgiveness, the universe does reflect that back to you almost instantaneously. Other people do pick up your loving energy, and you can feel it. It's so miraculous how when we forgive other people, the only person we're really forgiving is ourselves. And it's amazing how that works. I mean, I could have gone the other way. I could have held on to the resentment. I could have, chose to hang on to my grievance, but I didn't. I did my best to release it. And I believe that's a miracle. Forgiveness heals all. I mean, it's not only overlooking the error and forgiving her because I'm the better person. That's how the ego would describe forgiveness. Forgiveness, as A Course in Miracles describes it, is just erasing it as though it never happened. And when I see her now, I mean, she's a beautiful woman. When I was angry at her, she was beautiful. She's still beautiful, but now I see her beauty on the inside. And I don't see it as a mistake either. I don't think that I'm the better person or she's the better person. I just see it as a lesson that I had to learn. I don't know if she had a lesson too. I don't know. But I know it was a lesson that I needed to learn, and she was my teacher. And now it's over, and the mistake is erased. And we do have a better rapport than we did before it happened. I will say that.
That's great, Susan. Yes. It reminds me of something that Wayne Dyer, was posted, a thought that Wayne Dyer had originally written. And it says, "Love is my gift to the world. I fill myself with love, and I send that love out into the world. How others treat me is their path. How I react is mine." And this is a quote, as I said, by Wayne Dyer. And I held on to that because it's very important, because you were fortunate in that you taught, I think in this encounter with the nurse, you had a meeting of the minds, which is beautiful. So you sent her love, and she might have been doing the very same to you. So the encounter worked out. You had the problem, but you met in the middle, so to speak. There are situations where it doesn't work that way, where you can send love to someone and you're not going to get the reaction that you want. And I've had that experience as well. And that's why this statement by Wayne Dyer was so helpful, because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's the way you feel. It's all about you. You were healed by this. If she continued to be angry at you, even though you sent her love, would you have still been triggered or not? So that takes practice as well. Recognizing I sent her love. There's nothing more I can do. Here I am. I'm her friend. If she doesn't want to be my friend, well, that's fine too, because I did my part. So it really is. It doesn't matter what the other person is thinking or feeling. It's how we direct ourselves into the proper realm of recognizing that we're a cell in the heart of God, a cell in the heart of God. I like that. I heard somebody use that expression, and that's what we are. I also heard something yesterday. Somebody was saying that he was asked, "What is God? What is God?" And the answer that he gave was, "What isn't God?" And that's such an easy thought when you think about it. What isn't God? Course in Miracles says God is in everything I see. So there's nothing that God is not, he's in everything we are, everything we see, everything we hear, because when you think about it, it's all consciousness. Everything is consciousness. There is no such thing as not consciousness, or not, no consciousness. It is there. That's what it is. The universe is made of that. So when we think about that, we are a part of that. If God is in everything I see, and God loves me, well, then why shouldn't I love? Why shouldn't I feel that love? Why shouldn't I extend that love? And Lynn said something, Lynn Johnson, and I carry that with me. Try to love the way God loves. And I thought about that. If we could only love someone the way God loves. And I thought about that. 2 people in my life, I believe, loved me that way. One was my mother, and the other was my husband, Charlie. They love me as God loves. And I thought to myself, do I love that way? It's something to strive for. It's nice to, it was a wonderful thought, because I received that from 2 people. And if I could learn to extend that. But how do we know if we're loving the way God loves? Isn't that an interesting thought?
It's very interesting, Myrna, very interesting. In my opinion, God loves unconditionally. So it doesn't matter what I say or what I do. God loves all of us unconditionally. I believe that when we act in a way that does not align with our higher self, his love is steady, his love is constant, but his love can't get through because we block it. But no matter what I say, no matter what I do, God loves me. So that would be, I guess, analogous to your mother loving you unconditionally, no matter what you say or do, and Charlie loving you unconditionally, no matter what you say or do. Yeah, and that's challenging. That's challenging. People are only able to love other people as much as they love themselves. So God is just complete and total love. And the reason he's able to love me or us unconditionally is because he loves himself unconditionally. So he can extend full and total love to all of his sons and daughters. I mean, thinking about people in my life that stood by me no matter what I did. My mother stood by me no matter what I did. My mother loved me unconditionally. She did have some pain points within herself that she had not fully processed. So she wasn't able to truly love me unconditionally because she had not reached that state of enlightenment. I mean, I can only love you as much as I love me. So to love, I guess what it boils down to is we just need to do our best to love ourselves unconditionally. And then we're able to extend that love to our brothers and sisters. I mean, sometimes when we're going through challenges in life, it's so easy to get down on ourselves, and start blaming ourselves and start judging ourselves. But what we need to do is just when we go through the challenging times that we sometimes go through, is to stop the blame, stop the judgment, forgive ourselves as much as possible and just allow God to help us to heal. I was talking to someone earlier who was going through a challenging situation, which made me think of that. But I know so many times when we, part of learning and part of growing is bringing the darkness to the light. And I do experience a lot of darkness and vacillation. Sometimes I'm plugged into my God socket, sometimes I'm not. But when I go through challenging situations, it's easy for me to blame myself or blame the other person. It's easy for me to judge myself or judge the other person. And it's really challenging to hold on to that place of unconditional love for ourselves while we're going through challenging situations. But I think that is really helpful, because if we can always remember that God loves us unconditionally, even when we're experiencing challenging times, it makes healing, it allows healing to occur so much faster, faster and more readily. When I was running this morning, I run just about every morning now, this morning it was like the most fabulous run. It's right now in Massachusetts, it was 58 degrees when I was running this morning, which is so great. It was cool, it was sunny. And I just got to this meditative state within my own mind, which happens frequently. And I have had a lot of challenges in my life, over the past year. And what came to me is, what if everything is just perfect right here, right now? That's one of my famous mantras that I came up with myself. The good and the bad, the challenging and the joyful times. What if it's all just perfect? What if it's all just teaching me exactly what my soul needs to learn in order to reach that state of enlightenment, in order to get to that place of unconditional love? And when I can just accept everything as it is, and trust to rely upon spirit totally, and trust that God is always with me, trust that God is always guiding me, trust that God is always directing me, it really brings so much peace to my mind. So anyway, I think forgiveness is essential. And I think that God is just unconditional love, and he's always there. He's always present. Whenever we see the beauty in anything, we're seeing God. And to become like God with an unconditionally loving mindset is what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. Right, Myrna?
Yes, Susan. The Course in Miracles is a wonderful vehicle that we use to get there. Because, before the Course in Miracles, I was floating in my ego. That was it. I was just floating into it. I didn't know there was another way. And what made me pick up the Course in Miracles was I know I needed another way at that point, because I was in a lot of pain. And the Course in Miracles tells you that we can accept a lot of pain. In other words, it's amazing how much pain we endure, but even pain has a limit. And when we reach that limit, then we have to do something about it. So the Course in Miracles, we all gathered together some 33 years ago, I think, with the same feeling that we wanted to change. We wanted to change. And before we can change, we have to want to change. And so we really all helped each other. That was a wonderful time in my life, because I experienced a lot of healing back then. I think that if someone is angry at us or angry at someone and we can't forgive, I believe it's because we're experiencing the pain of that. And we don't want to experience the pain. Nobody wants pain. So we think that by blaming the other person, we're throwing them the responsibility of our pain. We're giving it to them. But it doesn't work that way. We know that it doesn't work that way. It only brings more pain. So you use an expression, the trick is to own the pain. If we can own our pain, recognizing that we created it and only we can undo it. Now that is the message. And that is, I believe, our entire purpose. If we can undo the pain that we've created, then we're ready to go on to a higher level of consciousness. I was listening. Yes. So, yeah, I was listening to Rob Schwartz just yesterday, and we took a session with him, and he had some very interesting things to say.
You retook a session with Rob Schwartz?
I didn't retake it, no, but he has a lot to say. I find him on YouTube, and he was referring to that the consciousness of the planet really is changing, because as we raise our consciousness, the consciousness collectively starts to change, and then we can go into a higher level of consciousness. We were born into a very low level, really. He calls it 3-dimensional consciousness. Now we're in 4th dimensional, and we're moving up to the 5th. I read a lot about that, actually, and there's a lot to be said. So we can't change the world. If we can change our mind about the world and raise our consciousness, then we move upward. And that is the sole purpose of our being, really. I like to think that in this lifetime, I've learned, I really have, who knows how many eons we've gone through in order to come to this place of understanding. Because we can't go backwards, we can only move forwards. And it's once we rid ourselves of the guilt and the debris that builds up inside of us, then we can move on and begin to feel love in our hearts. And once we feel that love, then of course we extend it. People sense it. It becomes our aura, and the radiance that we exude is, people see that, and it's love. And that's why to judge another person is futile, because that interrupts the love that we so stunningly can feel if we allow it to be. And so that's the lesson that I believe I came to learn, and I am learning it. Do I falter sometimes? Am I perfect? Am I great? Well, I don't know if I'll ever be great. I don't know if I'll ever even be good at it, but I can tell you one thing: if I try very hard, I know I'll be better at it. And that's the point that I've reached now.
Course in Miracles teaches that the ego, as you so wisely said, Myrna, the ego wants to project the pain onto someone else so it doesn't have to take responsibility for it. So the ego feels guilty, but because feeling guilty doesn't feel so good, it tries to make someone else guilty. And then when we can see that other person as guilty, we feel better than them. That's the ego's tactics. And you said that so well, that the ego is always trying to project its pain. The ego is always trying to project our fear onto someone else, onto outside circumstances, so we can feel better about ourselves. This is kind of like a constant. And as my sister once said, so wisely, as I was explaining to her this principle, it's like a boomerang. We try to get rid of the pain by throwing the boomerang far away from us. But then what happens is it comes back and it hits us in the head, and it hurts even worse. The pain becomes more painful because the boomerang builds up momentum. And that's what the ego is always doing. That's what the world teaches. I turn on the TV, I watch the news, the Republicans hate the Democrats hate the Republicans. I mean, but it's just all over. It's just so prevalent. I mean, the world does have a lot of dense energy, I believe. The world is run by the ego, because we're taught to project our pain. We're taught that we're victims. We get some kind of I guess feelings of righteousness by blaming other people for our problems. A Course in Miracles teaches us the opposite. A Course in Miracles teaches that God has but one son, and we're all part of the sonship. So when we're blaming someone else, that other person is the same person as us, right? God has but one son. So what we're really doing is blaming ourselves. We're not getting rid of it. We're just kind of exacerbating it. That's why A Course in Miracles is teaching us to take full responsibility for our life and own our pain, sit with the pain. I mean, again, A Course in Miracles tells us that if it was negative, it was an illusion. There is no pain. However, if we can just own the pain, we will find out that it has no power over us. We will find out that it's not real, but we have to stop blaming other people. We have to stop projecting that pain outside of ourselves. We need to sit with the pain, but only so we can see that it has no power over us. And most people have a hard time doing that because I guess on some level, when we project it, it feels better short term, but I mean, just for an instant, to project that pain outside of ourselves alleviates the pain that we feel inside of ourselves. But it doesn't last because it's not real. I think sitting with our own pain takes a lot of courage. That's why most people don't do it. And I try, I try my best to take responsibility for my life. And I know that when I really can live by the principles I believe, when I really can live by the principles that I teach or that I write about, I feel good. Life seems to flow much easier and much smoother. And I really do connect with that source energy that I crave so deeply. And it is challenging. I mean, I think that we all came down into this earthly classroom to learn these lessons. The world is definitely a classroom. I love your friend Rob Schwartz. I think he's amazing.
Okay.
I know he talks about reincarnation, which I am strongly believing in. I don't know how many lifetimes it has taken me to get to the point where I'm at now. But I'm grateful for all the knowledge that I've learned in this lifetime through A Course in Miracles. And judging, when we judge anyone, when we judge someone else, it doesn't feel so good. When we judge ourselves, it doesn't feel so good. But it's just so easy to go into blame and judgment, right? Because that's what the world teaches. A Course in Miracles says no. no, don't go there. Just surrender to God, and don't blame yourself. Don't judge yourself. Just accept that sometimes you might be going through some difficulties, and that's okay. And then after challenging times, usually what we do is we get to a place of joy that's on the other side of our pain. And that's so beautiful. As I quote just about every time that I'm on Pal Talk lately, it's that Araya Mountain Dreamer poem that I love so much. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without trying to hide it or fade it or fix it. That's what's hard to do. But when we can do that and stop projecting it, then we get to that joyful place that A Course in Miracles is teaching us to get to. I want to know if you can dance with joy, mine or your own. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can allow the ecstasy to fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. And I have experienced times like that. And it's so fabulous. Isn't it? When you can touch that, when you can feel that joy that's always available to you, to really embody the joy that's available to us at each and every moment. It's just so magic. Well, it's so miraculous. It's so miraculous.
Wow, Susan, I loved everything you said because I related to everything you said, everything. You talked about the boomerang. You throw the boomerang of hate or condemnation, judgment, and it comes right back to hit you in the face. But it also works with love. If you can boomerang love outward, extend it, it'll come right back to you too. So those emotions, our own emotions, whether they're love, hate, all come back to us, just like a boomerang. It depends on whether we're extending or projecting. And so I love that. And then, you talk about Rob Schwartz. I mentioned him and you mentioned him as well. What he said was, you turn the TV on and you listen to the news and everybody hates everybody, and the Republicans and the Democrats. That's what's going on now. But that's okay, because that, you need that. It's almost like the dust has to settle, and it's settling. And when dust settles, then you get all of this unsettledness until it really begins to settle. History has shown us this, and we're going through this right now. And that's okay, because it has to level off. It has to, and that's what's happening. And the energy that we're experiencing is very good right now, as well as we're also seeing the rest of it, which you say when you turn the television on and you watch it, and it's geared to try to get you to be fearful. That's really what it is. Anyway, so he did talk about that. And we talked about, yes, I learned so much about the pain. And, I also talked to you, and I wasn't going to bring this up, but I'd like to bring up my daughter, my younger daughter. And I'll use her as an example because she's the perfect teacher for me as well. She was always not an easy personality. And as a result, you tend to kind of walk on eggs with her. She's sensitive, and she's easy to trigger, very easy, and so forth. 20 years ago, when I was not evolved, of course, I was constantly fighting with her, no matter what I could do. And my ego wanted to strangle her at times. And she didn't talk to me for, I would say, almost 3 years. Okay, she didn't talk to me. She doesn't talk to her father. Okay. Anyway, things started to change. And for past 19 years, 20 years, well, actually, before the 20 years is when we had our problem. But for the last 20 years, I thought things were okay. Although, again, I kind of, soft soap things with her, until she had a problem with my son-in-law, my daughter's husband, and there was an altercation. And now they don't talk to each other. She doesn't talk to her sister. She course, had an altercation with my daughter's husband, her brother-in-law, and there's a problem there. But what Karen started doing then was making it my problem. But she was, and now she's giving me a hard time again. I could call her 2 or 3 times before she calls me back. She's cold, she's indifferent. I try to get to her. She's tries to accuse me of things that happened 30 years ago, whatever her reasoning is. I can't really just know that. But what I realized is that when she had the problem with my son-in-law, I believe she felt the pain. She felt the guilt. So now she's projecting it onto me because she can't project it onto him. He could give 2 hoots about Karen. He doesn't care. She can't hurt him. Who can she hurt? She can hurt me. And that's what I realize is happening. I didn't realize that then, but I see that now. And all I can do is just be there for her. I'm not going to call her. And I'm at peace with this. If I never speak to her again, okay, I will always send her love. I will always, I realize that I thought about her, and I think I'd rather die than see her in pain, really see her in pain. That was just, of course, it's a metaphor, but I love her enough to feel that way. So all I can say is that I recognize that she is in pain. She has to be in pain because you can't keep blaming everybody else as she does. And I say, she's the perfect teacher for me. And maybe I am for her too, because at this point, I've become evolved. I understand what's happening within her thinking, within her, I don't know what she thinks, I can't use that word, but I recognize what she's doing, let's put it that way. What's going on in her mind, I have no way of knowing because I don't recognize her ego, but I do recognize her spirit. And that's the part that I want to connect to and want to stay connected to and try to evolve with. And so it's an interesting lesson for me, really, and for her too, perhaps.
That's a very interesting lesson, a very challenging situation. I can totally relate to the story, as I'm sure we all can. You love your daughter so much because she's your daughter. I know you do. However, she is projecting unprocessed guilt onto you, I guess. Maybe because she can, right? She knows you love her so much. And that's what people do sometimes when they're in pain. They act out and they project their pain onto the ones that love them the most. And as I always say, everything in life is a lesson or a blessing. This is a huge lesson, which will turn into a blessing. I know it will, because you're so strong and you're so wise. There was Alan Cohen is a big Course in Miracles teacher, and I just get so much out of his audiobooks and his YouTube videos and podcasts. He was telling this one story about this man in India. I don't know where the man was, but he paid someone to walk around with him all day and insult him because he was really doing his best to build his inner strength and not take anything personally. So when things like this happen and people are projecting unprocessed guilt onto us, and for us to love them anyway, really strengthens our soul and strengthens our spirit. We don't grow despite life's challenges. we grow because of life's challenges. I mean, sometimes when we're in the midst of a challenging situation, it doesn't feel so good. But once we get to the other side of it, we realize there was something that we needed to learn. So I just applaud everything you're doing is just to love your daughter unconditionally, despite of what she's going through right now. And obviously don't take it personally. It's not about you. It's about the guilt that she's feeling. I mean, I've gone through that with so many of my family members. And I believe that we choose our family for different reasons. I mean, there is so much love amongst family, but there are also a huge amount of lessons that we learn through family members. So it's just I think you're doing everything just perfectly, Myrna. I mean, just to stay present and to love your daughter and to love yourself and give it to God and realize that,
right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm doing. Now I need do nothing. And that's it. And to be at peace with that. And I realize that I'm going in the right direction because I am at peace with it, completely at peace with it. Because now I see, I can see the difference as opposed to the way I saw it 20 years ago. I can see it now, recognizing, and that was the lesson I needed to learn and to come to this place. And so that's really what I really wanted to say. I wanted to make another point. I know. But yeah, it's just a matter of being. Oh yes, what I wanted to say was that what the thought that just came to me is I said, I don't recognize her ego, I recognize her spirit. But isn't that what God is? God recognizes our spirit. He doesn't recognize our ego. That's, I just kind of had that epiphany, they call it an epiphany right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with God. He only recognizes our spirit. And that's what I'm doing. So I guess I'm understanding the part of me that is God.
We can only see in others what we acknowledge within ourselves. I believe that God can't see our ego because he has no ego. God can only see our spirit and our love because he is love and spirit with a capital S.
That's
So
what he's trying to teach us to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Yeah. What you just said.
That's what he's trying to teach us to do. No, I'm glad you said that. Thank you. Thank you for reflecting that back to me. That's what he's trying to teach us to do. So when we can just, overlook someone's insecurity, overlook someone's inadequacies, and see the beauty in them, it's such an empowering thought system. I just thought of another line in my favorite poem there, The Invitation. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty, and source your day from its presence. So for us to focus on the good, for us to focus on the beautiful, for us to focus on the love, I mean, we get what we think about the most, we feel what we think about the most. I mean, I guess on a deeper level, Myrna, A Course in Miracles says throughout the text, there is no world. So we're creating our reality at each and every moment. And when we choose to recognize who we really are, the world will reflect that back to us. And it's easy. Or how does it say? It's simple. It's simple. The truth is simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. So I love that analogy you just gave with your daughter. And I mean, it just happens all the time. I mean, some friends I have an easier time connecting with. Other friends are more challenging, but it's just always a process of looking at myself, you know. It's we're always just kind of looking at ourselves, and when we can tap into the love and the beauty, you know. I mean, again, last night at the nursing home, I'm still working at the nursing home, we bowled. We did some candlepin bowling, but there was no there was no bowling alley. I did all the work. I set up the pins, you know, and I kind of stayed with the residents of the nursing home when they bowl to make sure that they wouldn't fall. Some of them are in walkers, some of them are in wheelchairs, but just to see the joy in their face when they got a strike or a spare, and to just kind of connect with their laughter. It's beautiful when I'm able to connect to the joy within other people, because I'm able to feel that joy within myself. And it's all good. Ultimately, it's all good.
Yes, it's all good. I like what we teach each other on these pal talks, don't we? We learn, continue to learn, and we teach each other. It's a good feeling. I come away feeling that
to realize we are never ever alone. I mean, my friends are so important to me, and I realize, you know, sometimes they have good things that are happening in their life, and that's wonderful, and other times they have challenging times that they're dealing with, but we are never ever alone. You know, everyone on this planet has challenges, and when we're going through the challenging times, just to depend on God and give it to God is so helpful. I mean, I even when I was in New York City and New Jersey over the weekend, you know, I live in Massachusetts. I still have friends in New York City and New Jersey. I even went to a traditional church service with one of my friends. Sometimes I get a little triggered because they talk about fearing God. And I don't believe that fearing God is an empowering thought at all. So sometimes I get a little triggered, but I'll tell you, this past Sunday, I felt very joyful and very connected, and I love what the pastor was talking about, and it was a really nice and beautiful experience. And I think that was what God would be thinking if he was in that church. He would be just loving all the people so much. And I felt that, and I was connected to him, and it was beautiful. And I think when I allow healing to occur and I allow myself to come from a loving place, I think that's just a very empowering energy to connect with.
Yes, you said allow myself. That's what it takes. We have to allow ourselves to do it. So I like that.
Because it's always available to us, you know, it's always available to us. All we need to do is
Let's do it.
remember that right here, right now, we are loved. Right here, right now, we are in heaven. Right here, right now, we are home. Right here, right now, we are enlightened, and it's all good.
Yes,
you know, that's
tells us that. Today's lesson 244, I am in danger, nowhere in the world. I just wanted to mention that. I am in danger, nowhere in the world. Just wanted to throw that in before the end of the hour.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And as the Course in Miracles says in its introduction, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And what that means is the only thing that's real is the love. It is 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. So our hour has come to an end. I love you so much, Myrna. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Same here, sweetheart. Loved it. Loved it.
And I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Thank you so much, Susan, and thank you, Myrna. Wonderful to see you. Have a great weekend and a wonderful Labor Day. Will you be here on Monday?
No, I thank you. I was gonna call you or text